So I wanted to make a quick video to just kind of put a stop to some comments because I'm getting frustrated again. I'm aware that there is going to be an interview uploaded today with my aunt and her daughter. I do not care. I won't be listening to it. I have a couple of reasons that I no longer care what they say. The first reason is they were not around for the majority of the situation. They were not there for my childhood. My aunt was there for my birth, and the only thing that she has said about it was to lie about the circumstances and then take credit for the fact that she was driving the car, as if that had anything to do with anything. I was born in a car. It doesn't matter who was driving it. And she changed the story to say that they were leaving from a naval base. But if a woman goes into labor on a naval base, is there not doctors? I mean, for one, we know nobody in the Navy. There would be no reason for my mother to have been in a naval base. But for the second reason, why, if a woman goes into labor, is your first priority to shuffle her into the back seat of a car and drive to the other side of town to get to a doctor? There's most likely a doctor on the base, or you could call an ambulance. That would be a bit of a better place to have a baby than a gas station. Yeah. Her story doesn't make sense. And the fact that she tried to take all the credit because she was driving the car, that's just typical narcissistic behavior. Well, yeah, she was born in a car. I was driving the car. Okay. So, yeah, I'm not letting her opinion of my childhood affect me anymore because the simple fact was that she was not there. And she lies about the stuff that she was there for. After my birth, she basically just disappeared. Well, I'm not going to say that, because after my birth came my little brother, and my mom went to jail, and she did help by taking my little brother. But I'm going to say by the time I was 10, Kathy was not helping my mother anymore. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's probably they realized that the drugs and the abuse was not going to end, and so they stepped away from the situation, which you can do. But if you're going to do that, you should at least be honest about it when the children are later grown and struggling with the abuse and the drugs that happened as children, instead of saying, well, we don't really know because we stepped away because the abuse was so bad, but it's not that bad, even though we stepped away from it. It's so much, there's so many hypocritical bullshits that's coming out with this, with her. It's all my aunt and her daughter. And, they want to talk about when I was on drugs. And I'm not lying about being on drugs. After the murder, I was messed up. And I was messed up for a couple of years. And I was on some strong drugs. I wasn't on meth. That's what some of y'all are saying. I was on pain medications. Which, unsurprisingly, my aunt is also having problems with pain medications. Fentanyl. And her daughter Sarah was on pain medications. But I'm the one that's a bad person for having an addiction to pain medication. Why? Because they gotta hate somebody. And that somebody turned out to be me. So it's perfectly fine for Kathy and her children to have serious drug and alcohol addictions and still be loved and forgiven and seen as human beings. But Mary has 5 years of drug and alcohol addictions that she overcame. And that's all we're ever going to talk about again. We're not ever going to get past it. It's not like she's moved on. That's all we are going to remember. And we're never going to look at the fact that Everybody in this family has done the exact same thing because everybody else in the family was allowed to. I wasn't. They treat me like I am so different when I'm a shining example of what our family is. And, you know, I'm tired of letting it upset me. I'm tired of letting the opinions of somebody who was not around upset me. Now, Sarah, when my grandmother passed away, Sarah was having trouble with drug addiction. And I didn't go to the hospital very often to see my grandmother when she was dying because there was always a family member there that absolutely hated me, and a fight would start. I would try to go see her. Now, one day I tried to go see her, and Sarah and my Aunt Martha, she's the one you should talk to, by the way. Martha would be honest. Sorry. Oh, not David, though. That's her husband. Sorry. Sarah and Martha were sitting in the hospital room playing a game. I walked in, I sat down, and Sarah started attacking me. I don't know how the conversation got to it, but she started talking about how I needed to get a job and move out of my grandmother's house, and how I messed up my life by marrying a transgendered man, and like that made me such a bad person. She kept going on and laughing about me and mocking me because I had married a transgendered person. And I finally got upset, and I said, well, if you're going to put me down for that, you should really be putting Martha down for that too, because she did the exact same thing just 20 years before me. Like this family, we do things like that, and then I'm the one that gets mocked and ridiculed and judged for it. And so Martha stood up for me at that point. She said, yes, I did. And Sarah, it didn't stop her. She just kept going on and on and on about how I was worthless and I couldn't work and I was just sponging off of Meemaw and I was just a worthless person and I married a transgender and can't work and don't. And I'm so, it got into an argument. And there was a nurse, there was a technician in there working with my grandmother. She was, she had a tube at the time, so she couldn't talk. And so the nurse turned around and said, her blood pressure is going up, and this has to stop. We can't do this. This is literally killing her. Her blood pressure has been rising since y'all started arguing. You need to leave. I left immediately. The second she said that Meemaw's blood pressure was going up because of it, I said, fine, I'm out. Meemaw's the only one that loves me, and y'all won't even let me sit with her for a few minutes. And so I left, and Sarah was laughing. Ha, yeah, you got kicked out because you're a piece of shit because nobody fucking loves you. Meemaw didn't love you. She didn't love you, and you're going to find that out. Nobody loves you. None of us want you. And the nurse turned around and looked at her and was like, you need to leave too. Like, I was already gone. So I didn't, but a little bit later, when I got home, Sarah was so mad because she was literally being made to go back to Georgia because the hospital kicked her out. And she kept insisting that the hospital only kicked me out and it was my fault. I was the troublemaker. I was the bad person. I was the garbage human being. And, you know, no, the hospital kicked Mary out. It wasn't me. It was her. It was her. It was her. And they only made me leave because of her. And, you know, and like on and on and on about how it was all my fault. It didn't matter at that point whose fault it was. Well, you're no longer at the hospital. You know, like, and that's the way it was. Whenever I was near somebody in the family, they would start attacking me. And there was never any understanding for my mental health. There was never any understanding for what I went through, what I'm dealing with. It was always just attacks. Even now, they still just attack. They refuse to care that I have tried. They refuse to acknowledge that I have changed. I had problems for 5 years. That is probably the shortest that anybody in this family has had problems with drugs and alcohol. I'm not going to be able to magically pull myself together and get a job. And I became homeless. I didn't become homeless because I was on drugs. I became homeless because I'm not mentally able to take care of myself. I'm not mentally capable of taking care of myself. That's not a lie. That's not something that I have made up to sponge off of the system. I am not mentally capable of taking care of myself. I can't even fill out the paperwork to get food stamps without a complete breakdown. This is not me making things up. It's all documented in my medical records. And so yeah, there's going to be an interview where they're going to talk a lot of crap about me. They're going to talk about the worst years of my life when I was a drug addict. They're going to do everything they can to make me look like a horrible, terrible person who deserves to starve to death on the streets for, I don't know, for being mentally unwell, essentially. That's the only crime that I have committed against this family, is that I was mentally ill. And the rest of them are too, but they're able to move on and get through their lives because they didn't go through quite as much as me, I guess. Or people are different. You know, they like to remind me, well, your sisters aren't like you. No, they're sisters. They're different. My older sister used to make her baby sick so that people would feel bad for her. When she was pregnant, she poked her nipples with safety pins and went to the hospital saying that she was lactating blood, and the doctor told her that he could see the pinholes. We've all had problems. I'm the only one that seems to be able to get through it and get help instead of just continuing on with the problems. My older sister's had like 5 husbands. So, no, we're not the same. But that doesn't mean that there's nothing wrong with her. I'm done caring what my family thinks about me, because my family has never thought of me as family. I was always weird, but there was never any understanding about why I might have been weird. And that's not right. It's not right. Help should have been given to me when I was a child. And my family denied me that help by ripping up the paperwork and throwing it away and just insisting that there was nothing wrong with me. And to this day, they're still insisting that there's nothing wrong with me. I'm tired of having people tell me that my illnesses are made up, because I can't heal from something that doesn't exist. I can't heal from something that's not there. And it's also difficult for me to heal when there's consistent denial about what's happened, because it makes me wonder. Yeah, like you wake up one morning and somebody's telling you that your entire life is a lie. Your entire life, every memory that you have, good and bad, somebody is now standing in your face saying, you know your entire life is made up, right? None of that happened. None of it. But you still have those memories and those dreams. And everybody else is just telling you that you're making it up and it didn't exist. It's a maddening feeling. And it's not something that you should have to feel from your own family. It's a type of gaslighting that can drive a person insane. Absolutely insane. My life is what it is. My memories are real. And my problems are real. And I'm not defending the years that I was on drugs and alcohol. I'm simply stating that I got over it. I'm no longer an alcoholic. I drink now only on special occasions, normally my birthday or Christmas or New Year's. Only a bottle, maybe two. I don't get drunk because I lived 18 years watching my mother stay drunk, and I won't do it. I don't do hard drugs because I grew up telling myself that I would never be a drug addict because I didn't want to be like them. And the 5 years that I fell into it, I hated myself more than any time ever because I knew that I had become the one thing that I had promised myself that I would never be. I had become just like them. And I came off of it. And I won't go back to it because I don't want to be like them. They depend on the drugs and the alcohol to hide their problems. I choose to see doctors and take medications to help me get past my problems so they're not eating me alive anymore. My family will never allow me to get past my past. That's why I had to leave them in the past. I am on my own, seeing doctors, taking medications, working out my problems, doing my best to heal from a life that my family will never acknowledge is real. That's why I'm no longer listening to them. I'm no longer going to allow them to infect my recovery. And that's just how it is. But, keep reminding me if you won't. I just don't care. And I'm not going to start.